Welcome to this Lesson Lab module titled The Power Zone and Strong Voice that was designed and produced by GoTeach11. Your journey starts here. The third Lesson Lab steps it up a notch and adds elements of classroom management. In this module, you'll learn to maintain close proximity to your students and use strong voice techniques to reinforce your expectations when things go a little bit awry. This module has a small bit of reading with it, so you'll need your copies of the Fundamental 5 and Teach Like a Champion 2.0, as well as something to take notes with. You'll demonstrate your learning in a 10-minute mini lesson. To earn credit for this module, you must move to different power zones to encourage on-task behavior, and also vary the tone of your voice or your body language to reinforce your expectations when needed. Now that we're strapped in and ready to go, let's get started. What if I told you that you already have a great tool to help with classroom management? The tool? Your physical presence. Just like standing outside your doorway helps keep the hallway safe and orderly, the same logic applies to being in different locations within your classroom. Some locations are more impactful than others, and we call these impactful areas power zones. The Fundamental 5 dedicates an entire chapter to the importance of working in the power zone. Take some time to read pages 41 to 50. It won't take long. And consider how working in the power zone impacts the class dynamic. Let's recap your reading. Here, we have an image of a teacher working behind her desk, and we'll presume that this is occurring while students are in the classroom. True or false? The teacher work area is an effective location for a teacher to conduct his or her craft. Statement false. We define the teacher work area as the area behind the teacher's desk or whatever computer nook is available. Location is associated with the term the authors use called administrivia, an interesting word. Things like taking attendance, grading, entering grades, checking email, these things are obviously important, but not directly associated with the student's learning at the time, so we want to spend as little time here as possible. Sitting at your desk feels good, it's comforting, but it gives the impression that you're passive in the role of checking in on exactly what's happening in your class, so avoid lingering here. Second question, try to finish this sentence. Staying solely in the lecture position is ineffective because A. Desks should not be in rows in a classroom. B. Students should be working in small groups at all times. Or C. The space between the teacher and student may lessen student engagement in learning. Of course, if you said something similar to choice C, you are correct. Now, the lecture position is a very traditional stance, and you might call a teacher who stays in this area most of the time a sage on the stage, which does have some negative connotations associated with it. Now, I remember how excited I was when I saw that I had a podium in my room the first year I taught. It made me feel important, gave me a sense of authority, but it didn't make sense for me to be here the entire time as if I was teaching in an arena. Now, we're not saying that this isn't a valid position to be teaching because, of course, it makes sense that you need to be here at different times in the lesson. The key takeaway is you need to intentionally move to different locations in the class to really make use of your physical presence. Otherwise, the distance is sometimes too great to make an impact on all of your students. Third and final question, true or false? The power zone is the most effective position for a teacher to work in because on-task behaviors increase and discipline issues decrease. No way! Yeah, you want to make it a habit to move to different areas in your classroom and not turtle up behind the podium or your desk. The power zones are essentially areas in the class where you're in close proximity to the most amount of students, or maybe you choose to be closer to one or two students who might need more of your presence to be productive. I will say this, moving to different locations in the classroom, working the power zone, getting up, getting down, it's a workout. It takes time to build up your stamina for this, especially if you're not used to being on your feet. If you use a step counter to track your activity, it's satisfying seeing how many steps you have at the end of the day, and it can be motivating to have competitions with your colleagues to see who takes the most steps in a week. The key takeaway here is that maintaining close proximity to your students makes a big difference, not only keeping your students on track, but showing that you're available to them and you care about whether or not they're getting it. The clear field of view you have over all your students, the better you can respond to make sure the focus stays on your learning intentions. All right, now for our next main topic, strong voice. Strong voice doesn't mean shouting or having a deep voice. It mostly has to do with professional, steady communication, which supplements what we've already learned about putting your teacher hat on. There are 6 principles of strong voice. Read about them in Teach Like a Champion 2.0 on pages 412 to 416. As you read, relate this information to what you already know about professional communication and clear, precise directions. Think about what you may need to work on to have a strong voice. Using a formal register means donning the right body language and no-nonsense tone you need to ensure the attentiveness of your students. This can be a double-edged sword, though, because an overuse of an urgent tone can be like crying wolf and lose its effectiveness. So when you're teaching academic content, you change how you speak and present yourself, but when you need to give directions or when you need to make your intentions super clear, that's when you use that formal register. Second principle is somewhat self-explanatory. When we use strong voice, we square up and face our students to let them know we are intentionally looking for compliance. So it could be fun to test your teacher look, the expression you wear on your face when you're squaring up standing still. Check yourself in a mirror. You don't want to necessarily look like you're burning a hole in the souls of your students. Maybe your eyes are a bit more open, your lips slightly pursed. You want your facial expression to say you're waiting for attention, you're waiting for follow-through. Based on what you see, ask yourself, would I take this look seriously? You don't have to shout to be heard, and that's what Principle 3 is all about, exuding quiet power. Shouting certainly is a tool you have, but I would classify it as a specialized tool that's not really suited for regular use. It raises anxiety, alludes to loss of control, and doesn't really have a place in typical work environments. Instead, try exuding quiet power. Try not talking and just be seen looking. Another reverse psychology option is to give directions in a softer tone so your students have to strain to hear you. Choose your words carefully. Say exactly what you want to say and nothing else. You're going to be smarter than most of your students, most likely. And we know that we could say things that are going to burn or put them in a place, but don't do that. We need to model the behaviors we expect to see from our students. We don't need to add salt to wounds or pour gas on the fire. We simply need to make our message clear and free of distractions. I think the image on the screen really summarizes Principle 5 of not talking over each other. Instead, exude that quiet power. Use an attention getter if you need to. Say what you need to say and then move on. The final principle of strong voice is do not engage. This means don't get caught up in a cycle of he said, she said. Stay firm in your original request. Adjust as needed on an individual basis at a later time. Let's take an opportunity to see this in action if you haven't already. my.teachlikeachampion.com has some great video clips in clips 67 through 69 that illustrate teachers using strong voice. Watch these videos and on a scratch piece of paper, see if you can identify which components of strong voice are illustrated in each. Man, those teachers are impressive. Check out how we broke down the videos and compare it to the notes that you took. Now, second teacher didn't literally stand, but if you rewatch it, you could see that she squared to the student and made sure that she was seen looking. So we gave her credit for that one. Congratulations, you've completed your learning for this module. The next few slides will reiterate how you'll show your learning in your mini lesson. Let's take a look at the proficiency rubric one more time. Avoid staying mostly in one location by moving to different power zones throughout the mini lesson. Encourage on-task behavior by varying the tone of your voice and body language when needed. For that extra challenge, carry around a notebook or a clipboard during the small group talk to take notes during the learning task. Here we have some tips to help you be successful in your mini lesson. There's little to no prep work for this module, but when you do have your own class, you'll want to be conscious of the seating arrangement and which students are seated where in order to establish power zones and maximize the power of proximity. As you do teach and monitor the learning, you're moving to different locations. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're breathing down students' necks, looking for every possible chance to intervene. Find balance in the power zone. Give them opportunities to adjust and correct, but place yourself in areas that let them know that you're conscious of their efforts. Before the mini lesson, don't be afraid to review the principles of strong voice. We may not see every principle, but some should be apparent. Something doesn't come off the way you intend to, don't worry, don't shut down. We'll definitely provide another opportunity to reflect and try again. Carrying a clipboard to take notes is a skilled teacher move, and thus it's on the extra challenge category for this module. It's going to help you ultimately monitor student participation, especially when they're in groups. You can record any insights that they have that you want to share later on whole class, and it ultimately just allows you to adjust as needed. Finally, remember to breathe, remain calm, but firm in your expectations. You got this. Thanks for watching this module titled The Power Zone and Strong Voice that was designed and produced by GoTeach11. This presentation referred to content from the Fundamental 5 and Teach Like a Champion 2.0. Photos were from 123RF, Pixabay, and Unsplash.